Picture this. It's a cold December night and you, like many others, have made the horrible mistake of opening Twitter. For the most part, everything seems normal, but you start to notice something peculiar. There's these green, yellow, and gray squares all over your feed. You wonder what they are, but ultimately pay no mind to them at first. Then, as the days go by, they start to increase in quantity until eventually they just become too much. You need to find out what they are. And as it turns out, those squares are from a free online game called Wordle. The game was created in October of 2021 by Josh Wordle, a software engineer from Reddit. He was also responsible for the r/place experiment, among other things. But Wordle didn't really take off until the ability to share your score was added in December of the same year. From there, the Twitter algorithm did its thing and caused Wordle to explode in popularity. The premise of Wordle is simple. You have 6 tries to guess a 5-letter word, and if you get the right one, you win. Now, this isn't a particularly groundbreaking idea on its own, considering how a similar game called Jotto already exists. However, there's one thing that makes Wordle unique, and that's the fact that it limits the amount of times it can be played to just 1 time per day. Josh Wordle has stated that his reason for doing this was to make sure that the game would not consume a ridiculous amount of time, instead only taking 3 minutes out of your day. But an unforeseen benefit of this feature was the social aspect it had when combined with the ability to share scores. Seeing discussions of Wordle on Twitter felt like the online equivalent to an office water cooler discussion. Everyone was talking about the game and its meta. There were many sophisticated discussions surrounding which starting word was the most optimal, but deep down, we all know that the only true way to start the game is with the penis opener. Wordle was something that a lot of internet users took seriously. Unfortunately, some people were willing to ruin the game for everyone. Yes, I'm talking about those who participated in a truly awful crime, posting unmarked Wordle spoilers to Twitter. It was possible to go into the source code of Wordle and find out future answers with the intent of ruining the surprise. In particular, there was one name that was feared all throughout Twitter: the Wordleinator. The Wordleinator was a bot who would detect when someone posted their Wordle score and then automatically reply with this message: guess what? People don't care about your mediocre linguistic escapades. To teach you a lesson, tomorrow's word is The Wordleinator was such a huge threat that Twitter had to step in to ban it. And considering some of the other people who are allowed to be on Twitter without getting banned, banning an account that posts spoilers for a word game is clearly the highest priority. But anyway, since the community aspect was a big part of Wordle's appeal, it was only natural that fan-made versions of it would emerge. First, there were various versions of Wordle that took the base premise and limited the pool of words to a specific category, like Jojoto or Squirtle. Then there were various ports of the original game to older hardware, like the Game Boy, the Nokia N-Gage, and the DS. Also, there were various heroes where you had to guess a song from a specific category. Next, there was Anti-Wordle, a creative twist on the formula where your goal is to get as many incorrect guesses as possible before you're inevitably forced to choose the correct one. And finally, there's Letteral, where you have to guess a single letter in a game that only requires the purest of skill. The Wordle community was thriving. It was a fun thing that brought people together. Truly, there was nothing that could ruin it. On January 31st, 2022, New York Times announced that it purchased Wordle for a price that was apparently in the low 7 digits range. And so, the neat little thing created by a single person with no intention for profit was inevitably going to undergo some changes to fit the needs of the massive corporation. The game was moved to the New York Times' website, where you'll be begged to create an account and play other games that the New York Times owns. Some people even reported that this jump caused their scores to be lost for no fault of their own. There is also a plan to create a physical party game for Wordle, which completely goes against the main point of the game, seeing as how a physical game wouldn't have an inherent limit on how many times you can play it per day. Now, none of these things completely ruin the act of playing Wordle. You can still play the game as normal with only some minor interruptions, yet Wordle dwindled in popularity nonetheless. In general, it wasn't any actual individual change that killed Wordle, but rather the overall feeling of it becoming more corporate. The original intent of Wordle was to be this small thing that was free and didn't take out much of your time. But under the New York Times, it had to be this larger thing that leads you to other websites when it's done, and also has its own board game that you can spend money on. In other words, it spearran the fate of many internet phenomena before it.